every Spawn game ever, explored with reviews, whether you should play them or not. Spawn, the brainchild of Todd McFarland, who decided one day that comic book heroes were just too goody two-shoes, and conjured up a character that's as much hell's fashionista as he is a vigilante. A superhero who decided that spandex just wasn't edgy enough, and went full-on hell's couturier with chains and a cape that probably violates several laws of physics. Welcome, you gluttons for punishment, to the one-stop shop of despair and occasional delight, as we dissect every video game that dared to feature our favorite hellspawn. Why? Because life is short, and you've got better things to do, like arguing if pineapple belongs on pizza, or contemplating the futility of existence. So grab a drink, or don't, I'm not your mother, and let's dive headfirst into this cesspool of pixels and regrets. Trust me, it's going to be more fun than a barrel of demonic monkeys. Spawn, the gritty comic book character, has had a rough time transitioning from ink and paper to the pixels of video games. Most attempts have been somewhere between bad and mediocre, much like the feature-length Spawn movie from 1997. A smorgasbord of digital experiences that range from, I guess this is okay, to, did Satan code this as a joke? Let's begin. Todd McFarland's Spawn, the video game. 1995, a title that takes us back to the pixelated era of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, SNES. Released in late 1995, this action-packed beat-em-up game was developed by Ukiyote and published by Acclaim Entertainment and Sony Electronic Publishing. The game centers around Al Simmons, also known as Spawn, who embarks on a quest to save 13 children. Yes, you read that right, 13. Because 1 or 2 would just be too easy, wouldn't it? The gameplay is a side-scrolling beat-em-up with platforming elements, where you can control Al Simmons as he walks, runs, ducks, and jumps through 17 levels. But it's not all physical. Spawn has an arsenal of special powers that can be activated through specific button combinations. Be cautious though, as using these powers drains his necroplasm, which is limited by a timer. Run out of time and it's game over, as Spawn's soul is lost to hell forever. Talk about high stakes. The story is as twisted as you'd expect from a Spawn game. Al Simmons, once a secret agent for the US government, was betrayed and murdered. He makes a deal with the Lord of Darkness, Malebolgia, to return from the dead as Spawn. The catch? His powers are limited, and if depleted, his soul will be Malebolgia's forever. The antagonist, the Mad One, kidnaps 13 children, including Simmons' stepdaughter, and aims to use them to destroy Malebolgia. It's up to Spawn to stop him and save the day. Critics had mixed feelings about the game. While the graphics and animations were praised, many found the gameplay lacking in innovation. Special moves were considered both a highlight and a point of contention, as some reviewers found them too difficult to execute. Despite its flaws, the game was recommended for fans of the comic book series. So if you're a Spawn aficionado, or just curious about the slice of 90s gaming history, Todd McFarland's Spawn, the video game, is worth a look. Just be prepared for a trip down a very nostalgic and sometimes frustrating memory lane. Spawn, the Eternal, 1997. The Spawn PlayStation title that promised to bring Todd McFarland's hellish anti-hero to life, but instead delivered a gaming experience that felt like an eternal damnation of its own. Developed by Sony Interactive Studios America and published by Sony Computer Entertainment, this game was supposed to be the next big thing for Spawn fans. The development cycle? A chaotic whirlwind of ambition and, let's be honest, a bit of hubris. They aimed to blend beat-em-up action with adventure game elements, a concoction as volatile as mixing Mentos with Coke. Now, let's talk graphics. Imagine a world where Spawn looks like he's been put through a pixelated meat grinder. That's Spawn the Eternal for you. The environments are as drab as a rainy Monday, and the character models would make even a PlayStation 1 blush in embarrassment. Mechanics? Oh, you mean the clunky controls that make Spawn move like he's wading through a pool of molasses? Yeah, they're there, in all their unresponsive glory. The game tried to incorporate puzzle-solving elements, but most of the time, you're too busy wrestling with the controls to care. And what did the critics say? Well, IGN's Doug Perry called it one of the worst games he's ever played, citing poor controls and laughable graphics. GameSpot's Jeff Gerstmann was slightly kinder, saying the game could have been decent but was marred by sloppy execution. The general consensus? A game that's as enjoyable as a root canal, but without the courtesy of anesthesia. So, if you're a masochist or just want to experience how not to adapt a comic book into a video game, Spawn the Eternal might just be your cup of torment. But for the rest of us as sane individuals, it serves as a cautionary tale into the annals of gaming history.
I never lose.
Spawn, in the Demon's Hand, 1999. This Dreamcast Spawn title that's as perplexing as a Rubik's Cube, designed by H.P. Lovecraft. Developed and published by Capcom, this game was originally an arcade title before making its way to the Dreamcast. The first thing you'll notice is the menu, which is as straightforward as a labyrinth. Scrolling through, you'll find no campaign or story mode, just a buffet of multiplayer options like Team Battle Mode and Tournament Mode. It's clear that the game's arcade roots didn't translate well to a home console, especially if you're expecting a traditional campaign. The game offers a smorgasbord of multiplayer modes that resemble a demonic Super Smash Bros., but without the finesse. You can team up in Team Battle Mode or go solo in Battle Royale mode, fighting in iconic Spawn locales like alleys, sewers, forests, and of course, hell. But let's get to the meat of it. How's the gameplay? The gameplay is about as enjoyable as a root canal without anesthesia. Kombat feels like you're trying to swat a fly with a sledgehammer. Each character has a basic attack combo and a unique special attack, but executing them feels about as rewarding as finding a single M&M in a bag of trail mix. Sure, each character has unique attacks, but they're about as enjoyable to execute as a tax return. So, if you're a Spawn fan looking for a game that captures the essence of the character, Spawn, in the Demon's Hand, is a lesson in missed opportunities and squandered potential. It's less a hand from the demon and more a slap in the face. It's a game that leaves a lot to be desired, and it's not fun to play. So, if you're in the mood for a Spawn game that's as disjointed as its title, this one's for you. But for the rest of us, it serves as a cautionary tale in the annals of gaming history. Spawn, for Game Boy Color 1999, developed and published by Konami, a company that was at the top of its game during the 90s. The game opens with an 8-bit artwork of Spawn overlooking a dark city skyline, setting the tone just right. You're then presented with a montage of floating heads featuring key characters from the Spawn comics, giving you everything you need to know about our hellish hero. Now let's talk gameplay. It's a beat 'em up, because what else would you expect from a comic book character on the Game Boy Color? A Spawn Metroidvania? No, that would be too awesome. The game lets you pick your stage, Mega Man style, and even includes a motorcycle stage that raises some red flags. Forced vehicle sections can be a hit or a miss, but we'll get to that. First impressions matter, and this game stumbles right out of the gate. Spawn's eyes are red instead of green. It's a minor detail, but it's like seeing Batman without his cape. It just feels wrong. Once you get past that, you find yourself in an alleyway, the starting point of all great stories, apparently. The game is a beat 'em up, but it's not just any beat 'em up. It's a beat 'em up on a handheld, which is a platform that tends to be less critical when it comes to its games. Handhelds can get creative with limitations, leaning into certain genres that may be unconventional given the source material. But does this game do something unexpected and creative? No, it's a paint-by-numbers, mediocre licensed game. The game was released on September 15th, 1999. And one would think that with Konami at the helm, there's no way this could fail. But alas, it's a mixed bag. The 8-bit artwork is commendable, given the Game Boy Color's limitations, but the gameplay leaves much to be desired. It's not downright infuriating, but it's not tolerable either. It's just there, like a piece of furniture you've had for years but never really liked. So if you're a Spawn fan looking for a handheld experience that captures the essence of the character, keep looking. This game serves as a cautionary tale in the annals of gaming history. It's not the worst thing to come out of the 90s, but it's far from being a Konami classic. Spawn, Armageddon, the 2003's action platformer that promised to bring the hellish anti-hero to life in a way that would make even Dante from Devil May Cry blush. Developed by Point of View Games and published by Namco, the game is supposedly based on Spawn comic issues 1 through 99, but let's be honest, it feels more like a fever dream inspired by a late night binge of B-movies and energy drinks. The game kicks off with a plot that could only be described as ambitious, if we're being generous. Heaven has a super weapon, there's a hole in the earth, and demons are attacking. It's up to Spawn to find out why this is happening. The story feels like it was written by someone who skimmed through a Spawn comic while waiting in line at the grocery store. It's a narrative that's as coherent as a Mad Lib filled out by a room full of caffeinated squirrels. Now, let's talk gameplay. Imagine the love child of God of War and Devil May Cry. But if that child were raised by wolves and then sent to a boarding school for the criminally uninspired, the controls are as responsive as a sloth on sedatives, and the combat is as engaging as a staring contest with a wall. You'll find yourself fighting creatures that look like they were rejected from a low-budget sci-fi movie, and let's not even talk about the imps that seem to have wandered in from a Doom game. The graphics are a mixed bag. On one hand, they capture the dark and gritty atmosphere of the Spawn universe. On the other hand, they also capture the essence of early 2000s game design, which is to say they haven't aged well. It's like looking at a high school yearbook and realizing you used to think that frosted tips were cool. As for the reviews, the game has been described as a mediocre action game carried only by its license. It's a title that had potential, but ultimately fell flat, like a souffle taken out of the oven too soon. The consensus is clear. The game is not the worst thing to come out of the Spawn franchise, but it's far from being a hidden gem. If you're a Spawn aficionado yearning for a nostalgic trip back to the gaming landscape of the early 2000s, you might want to steer clear of Spawn Armageddon. This title stands as a somber warning in the chronicles of video game history. A game that had the potential for greatness, but ultimately became a footnote. Rather than reigniting Spawn's legacy in a blaze of glory, it's more like a dying flame that's quickly snuffed out. Spawn and Soulcalibur 2 HD Online. The game that took the classic Soulcalibur 2 experience and gave it a fresh coat of HD paint. Let's not beat around the bush, we're here to talk about Spawn, the hellish anti-hero who made his way into the roster. Developed by Project Soul and published by Bandai Namco, this HD remaster brought back all the characters you know and love, but Spawn's inclusion is what really set the stage on fire. Or should I say hellfire? According to GameSpot, Spawn is awesome, and so is this game. He's not just a guest character, he's a guest character done right. His inclusion in the roster isn't just fan service, it's a well thought out addition that adds a new layer of depth to the game. His moveset is as versatile as it is brutal, offering a range of attacks that can make even the most seasoned Soulcalibur veterans break a sweat. His special moves, incorporating elements of his comic book abilities, are as satisfying to execute as they are to watch. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The review does point out that the game has one problem, and one problem only. The game is not at all tough. While this may not directly relate to Spawn, it does affect how you might experience his character in the game. If you're looking for a challenging experience, you might find the game a bit lacking. But if you're in it for the sheer joy of playing as Spawn, then you're in for a treat. So if you're a Spawn fan who's been yearning for a video game adaptation that doesn't make you want to gouge your eyes out, Soulcalibur 2 HD Online has got you covered. Spawn's inclusion in the game is not just a gimmick, it's a meaningful addition that enhances the overall experience. It's a match made in hell, but in this case, that's a good thing. Finally, Spawn has found a home where his brand of violent justice feels right at home. Spawn in Mortal Kombat 11 2020. The game that's been ripping spines and breaking hearts since 2019. But in 2020, it decided to invite Spawn, Todd McFarland's hellish anti-hero, to the party. Developed by NetherRealm Studios and published by Warner Brothers, this inclusion was like inviting a bull to a china shop, except the bull has chains, guns, and a cape that defies the laws of physics. Graphically, Spawn fits into the Mortal Kombat universe like a glove fits a hand, assuming the glove is made of hellfire and the hand is perpetually giving you the finger. The character model is a thing of beauty, capturing the essence of Spawn in all his demonic glory. It's like someone took McFarlane's art, pumped it full of steroids, and let it loose in a fighting arena. Mechanically, Spawn is a dream, or a nightmare, depending on which end of the chains you're on. His moveset is as versatile as it is brutal, offering a range of attacks that can make even the most seasoned Mortal Kombat veterans break a sweat. His special moves, incorporating elements of his comic book abilities, are as satisfying to execute as they are to watch. And let's not forget his fatalities, which are as Spawn-esque as you could get, complete with all the hellfire and brimstone you'd expect. The critics, they couldn't get enough. Destructoid's Chris Carter praised Spawn's design and mechanics, calling him a well-rounded addition to the roster. IGN's Mitchell Saltzman echoed similar sentiments, lauding the character's depth and versatility. So, if you're a Spawn fan who's been yearning for a video game adaptation that doesn't make you want to gouge your eyes out, then Mortal Kombat 11 has got you covered. It's a match made in hell, but in this case, that's a good thing. Finally, Spawn has found a home where his brand of violent justice feels right at home, and where ripping someone's spine out is considered a friendly greeting. Future of the Spawn games. Well, folks, before we wrap up, there's a glimmer of hope on the horizon for Spawn fans. Todd McFarland himself has teased the possibility of a new Spawn video game. With superhero games finally finding their footing in the gaming world, thanks to titles like Marvel's Spider-Man and the Batman Arkham series, it seems like the perfect time for Spawn to make a triumphant return. McFarland is cautiously optimistic, waiting for the right moment when Spawn gains more mainstream recognition, possibly alongside a new blockbuster movie featuring Jamie Foxx. Let's be honest, past Spawn games haven't exactly set the world on fire. They've ranged from mediocre to downright forgettable. So, this news could be the light at the end of a very dark tunnel. But let's not kid ourselves. For a Spawn game to truly succeed, it needs a proper budget and at least a AA or AAA treatment. Anything less would be a disservice to the character and the fans. That's all for today, folks. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of gaming. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time.